Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel. My name is Christiana Sage. On this channel, I will be teaching about international law, and these teachings will be in the form of short weekly lecture series. Over time, I will be surfacing varied concepts of international law. When and where applicable, these concepts will be analyzed and brought to you as it relates to current trends in international law as they arise. At the end of this lecture, you will find the transcript of the lecture in the link below. Also, for current trend and analysis in international law, you can subscribe to my blog. All the details you will find in the comment section below. For the 26th lecture in this lecture series, we will be exploring another primary organ of the United Nations, established under Article 7 of the United Nations Charter, the International Court of Justice. In this lesson, we will speak to the function of the International Court of Justice, its composition, as well as how it interfaces with other organs of the United Nations. What is the International Court of Justice, and what are its functions as a United Nations organ? According to Article 92 of the United Nations Charter, the International Court of Justice shall be the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. In essence, the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. The International Court of Justice is the successor of the Permanent Court of International Justice, the PCIJ, and the court sits in the Peace Palace located in The Hague, Netherlands. Essentially, the International Court of Justice has two functions. One, to settle in accordance with international law legal disputes submitted to it by states. And according to Article 96 of the United Nations Charter, to give advisory opinions on legal questions referred to it by an authorized UN organ and specialized agencies. The difference between both functions of the ICJ relates to the question, who is entitled to appear before the court? You see, only states, or what we refer to as countries, can bring cases before the ICJ. And this relates to the first function we mentioned a little while ago. Where the ICJ addresses disputes between states, the court is said to be sitting in its contentious jurisdiction. A follow-up question will then be, which states can appear before the ICJ? Essentially, all parties to the ICJ statute, which is the constitutive instrument of the court, can appear before the court. Article 93 of the United Nations Charter has this to say. Members of the United Nations are parties to the statute of the ICJ. By inference, therefore, all member states of the United Nations can appear before the ICJ, instituting and defending actions before the court. In this jurisdiction, therefore, the ICJ can issue orders and judgments on contentious issues between state parties before it that bind the disputing parties. According to Article 94 of the UN Charter, where a party under the judgment of the ICJ fails to perform its obligation, the aggrieved party on the non-performance may have recourse to the Security Council. We will then address the second function of the ICJ, which is in its advisory jurisdiction. The advisory jurisdiction of the ICJ is a special procedure available to UN organs and certain international organizations that allow the ICJ provide opinion on issues that relate to the functioning of these UN organs and organizations. Essentially, unlike the contentious jurisdiction, the court is not settling any disputes in its advisory jurisdiction, Rather, the court is interpreting or advising on how these UN organs and specialized agencies should function in line with their mandate. At the moment, the procedure is available to 5 United Nations organs, which are the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, the Trusteeship Council, the Interim Committee of the General Assembly. It is also available to 15 specialized agencies, which are the International Labour Organization, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, World Health Organization, WHO, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD, the International Finance Corporation, IFC, International Development Association, IDA, International Monetary Fund, IMF, International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, International Telecommunication Union, ITU, International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, World Meteorological Organization, WMO, International Maritime Organization, IMO, World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, and one related organization, which is the International Atomic Energy Agency. To its composition, the International Court of Justice is composed of 15 judges elected to 9-year terms of office by the United Nations General Assembly and the Security Council. Among the 15 judges, a president and vice president are usually elected by secret ballot to serve a 3-year term. The president presides at all meetings at the court. The current president is George Donoghue of the United States of America, and George Kirillov of the Russian Federation is the vice president. In this lesson, we have touched on the advisory role of the ICJ, which is one way it interacts with other organs of the United Nations. Another example is the ICJ's role of submitting reports on its activities to the General Assembly of the UN. The report generally contains an introductory summary, information about the organization of the court, its judicial work and jurisdiction, reports of events, lectures, visits, publication, budgetary and administrative issues from the 1st of August of one year to the 31st of July of the next year. Overall, this lesson has been prepared to give a bird's eye view of the functioning of the ICJ as an organ of the United Nations. If there are more questions on this issue or a topic you would like to see on this channel, leave a comment down below. So I want to say thank you so very much for joining in. Remember to like, share, subscribe, leave your comments in the comment section below, and hit the notification bell so that you're notified when there's a new video. We would also like to connect with you on Facebook and Twitter, and let us know the content you'd like to see. Thank you.